countdown to the kickoff for campaigns for 2027 general elections will soon start. Our job is right here to make sure we help you navigate all of the campaign seasons to make sure everything that is said by any politician or political party will bring you up to speed. And that's how we're going to start the program today. But not about the campaigns, but what has played out in several parts of the country, essentially the reprogramming, if you will, of our country's decentralization program. What am I talking about? You'll find out in just a moment. Let's get started with the headlines. Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Osun. The newly elected Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly, Yekini Diaye, assures Governor Monday Okpolo of legislative support as the governor calls for unity among the lawmakers. And we take a look at the proposal for state police and the dynamics that could make or mar its adoption to strengthen national security. Very soon, political fireworks will start. But before all of that starts, we will focus on some of the critical issues that concerns you and I. And one of those critical issues is national security. And I know you are aware that the proposal for state police is on. If you're not aware, go to nationalpolicing.com and make your own idea known to the committee that is called the Working Group for your own proposal to see how you can contribute to national development, what we need to do to have what in effect should be a properly constituted state police. It's going to be part of the conversation today on the program. But before that, let's tell you how the governor of Edo State, Monday Okpolo, has charged the new leadership of the State House of Assembly to embrace unity and transparency, as well as teamwork. The governor gave the charge when he received the newly elected Speaker, Yekini Diaye, and other principal officers at the government house in Benin City. That is after the resignation of Blessing Okambaje.
We are here this afternoon to formally introduce the new leadership of the Edo State House of Assembly and other members to you, sir. And to inform you, sir, that with this new leadership, we are ready to stabilize the House and to ensure that we give you the maximum support, because we are all proud of you. You are doing well, and the only way you can continue to do well is to have the support of the House, which we are ready any day, any time. The loyalty of the House will never be in doubt. We are there for you, and we are there for the party.
You are not just assuming office to be just an ordinary speaker. You should know that you are now carrying shoulders of many people. And you have to be transparent with your colleagues. You have to carry everybody along. The only way you can have an effective leadership is for you to carry everybody along. There is no small parliamentarian. You can have value among your colleagues. It's just one principle. That principle of integrity. So far, so good. Everybody is saying a lot of good things about you. So you are humble. You can carry the House along. But I want you to remain the way they are describing you. Let me also advise the members of the House. Teamwork is the bedrock. And for you to make progress, you need to believe in yourself.
And away from Edo politics, the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room says the mass participation of citizens in the 2026 Osun State governorship election shows that stronger public engagement can help prevent electoral manipulation and strengthen democracy. The group made this known in Abuja while reviewing the conduct of the Osun State governorship election, commending voters for turning out in large numbers and following the collation of the result. The Situation Room, however, raised concerns over delays in the distribution of sensitive materials.
There were reports of technical difficulties involving bimodal voter accreditation system (BVAS) and other aspects of the accreditation process. BVAS deployment resulted in prolonged waiting times and congestion at polling units with large registered voters where only one BVAS device were reportedly available. While technology remains an important instrument for improving electoral integrity, technical failures can undermine confidence when they delay accreditation or create uncertainty about the validity of the process. Security agencies need to continue to strengthen mechanisms for preventing electoral offenses, including voter inducement and intimidation. Political parties should deepen internal democratic practices and promote issue-based campaigns. Electoral integrity requires the combined effectiveness of INEC, political parties, security agencies, the judiciary, citizens, observers, and the media. As Nigeria moves towards the year 2027 general elections, the Situation Room urged all stakeholders to build on the positive lessons of Osun State while urgently addressing the weaknesses identified. Nigeria's democracy must move from elections that are mainly conducted to elections that are demonstrably credible, transparent, accountable, and trusted by the citizens.
Now, we're not done with the Osun State governorship election issues. So the national chairman of our court party, that's the party that won that election, Maxwell Nguben, has called for the immediate release or prosecution of party members arrested or detained prior to just concluded election in the state. Speaking to journalists in Osogbo, the chairman condemned what he describes as the use of federal might to harass, intimidate, and suppress party members before the election.
Accord demands an immediate release of all its leaders, candidates, members, and supporters arrested and detained in Abuja, Nasarawa, and Osun State, a flagrant violation of their fundamental rights as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. It is in the interest of justice and equity to release them immediately. The election is over. There is no need for their detention. The Inspector General of Police is urged to act accordingly. Once more, I congratulate Nigerians for the success of this historic Osun governorship election. This election is a demonstration of the people's will, desire. We cannot continually suppress the people. And those in authority that believed that with incumbency power, they can suppress the will of the people. This should send a very strong message to them that when the people desire to change a government, it shall come to pass.
And that's the Osun State governorship election. The aftermath will still continue for a while. But let's talk about the issue of state police. I did talk about this issue when we started the program, that it's quite fundamental to our national security because we've struggled with issues around terrorism, banditry, kidnappings, the very many things that we're all familiar with. So every government has experimented with one idea or the other, but this government seemed to have braved up to the issue of state police with a clear working plan to say they want to get it done. But getting it done is one thing, getting it done the right way is another kettle of fish. And that's why we'll keep interrogating the conversation as many times as possible. Let's bring in our guest, retired U.S. Navy Captain Bishop Johnson joins us from our Abuja studio. Captain Johnson, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me, and good morning.
I know that in your write-up that I saw, you're talking about FCT police. And before we come to that, I want us to look at a few things a little bit broadly. I was doing some note-taking, and I see that the Bola Tinubu administration has been doing what I call pseudo-decentralization. So LG autonomy, great move, although it's not been implemented except in Osun State. Electricity Act, development commissions, where you have all these development commissions, and then the issue of state police, which is the recent that we're looking at. But a lot of people are calling for outright devolution of power, which is more fiscal, political, and administrative, because decentralization is basically keeping control and delegating command. That's what it is. But from just this preview I have given, are we moving as quickly as we should, given the urgency of what we're dealing with in terms of national insecurity?
Yeah, Geoffrey, good afternoon, and thank you again for having me. You know, democracy is messy and noisy, especially democracy in a country as massive and as huge as our own country, Nigeria. And so, most times we would want the government to move with the speed of light. But unfortunately, there are some inherent constraints that keep drawing the government back, which no matter how hard they tried to move faster, those constraints are there because there are so many voices and every voice wants to be heard. And if the government would move with the speed of light, as you had suggested, some of those voices will not be taken into consideration. So I believe it's one of the reasons why things are not moving as faster as most Nigerians would want things to move.
I want your comment, a direct comment on issue of, because everybody is literally, one of the things that President Bola Tinubu has been praised for, he's been criticized for a lot of things, but one of the things like that seem to have a bit of a consensus is that he's very brave. And if we can explore that bravery to literal devolution of power, will it be asking for too much? Because what they are doing is piecemeal decentralization.
Well, that's why in my introduction, I said there are so many voices that want to be heard. Yes, the president is very courageous. Everybody can agree to that. I, for a person, I do agree that this president is very bold and very courageous based on some of the decisions that he has taken, that the governments and his predecessors, the government before him, his predecessors were very unwilling or unable to venture into. But you should also understand that the president is also a politician. He came into office through political process, and he is also seeking re-election. And if you are in his position and you are seeking re-election and you need to work with people who will help you to get re-elected, you may want to move with the speed of light. But because of that single consideration, you will have to reconsider that speed. On the day of election, the president can only be in one place, and that is his own polling unit. And so he will rely on hundreds of thousands of his supporters and party members across the country who will be voting in several other polling units to get re-elected. And so taking that into effect is very, very critical so that you don't, endure that coalition that will essentially help you achieve victory in the re-election. So I believe in his second term, if he's re-elected, and when he's re-elected, that he probably will move a little more faster.
Captain Bish, so as we call you, let's talk about the write-up you did that made me to invite you, a case for local police service for the FCT. So first, is this in response to the fact that the FCT was not factored into the narrative of state police? And what are you trying to say here?
Yes, exactly. I have heard arguments that FCT does not have a governor, does not have a state house of assembly. Therefore, it shouldn't have its own state police. But I'm here to say that, look, Nigeria cannot credibly argue that a centralized police structure is inadequate for 36 states because it is too distant from local communities while simultaneously maintaining essentially the same centralized arrangement for the FCT, where the nation's most important political, diplomatic, administrative, and strategic institutions are located. Besides, citizens of the FCT are also citizens of Nigeria. We pay taxes, and we do all of the other things that residents and citizens of other states do. Therefore, we cannot be treated as second-hand citizens. We deserve the same level of security and safety as every part of this country. And everybody in this country understands and knows that FCT has had its own fair share of the insecurity in the country. And so trying to exclude us from the dual security policing structure simply because we don't have by name a governor or by name a State House of Assembly will be unfair and may end up with some litigations. And the reason why I say that is because we already have a governor. We have a governor in the FCT. He's just not called a governor. He's called the president, provided for in the Constitution. The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria plays dual role for the people of FCT. First, he is their president and commander-in-chief, and secondly, he is their governor. But he decides to delegate that responsibility and exercise that responsibility through the minister of the FCT. So the minister of the FCT plays essentially the same role for the residents of the FCT as the governors of the respective states. The same thing with the legislature. We also have our own State House of Assembly. It's just not called State House of Assembly. It is called the National Assembly. The National Assembly legislates for the FCT. And the same way that the same role that the State Houses of Assembly play for the state are the same role that is the same roles that the National Assembly play for the members, for the residents of the FCT. So I don't know how they can argue that we don't need state police, why the other states or residents do need state police. I mind you, in section 299 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it's very unequivocal. And it clearly states that the FCT should be treated as if it were a state. And this has been legislated upon all the way to the Supreme Court. Even in the last election, the Supreme Court ruling considered FCT as if it were the 37th state of the Federation. So in important issue as security and safety, the FCT should also be treated as if it were the 37th state of the Federation, because we have the right to safety and security.
Yes, great point. I'm just looking, finding out, of course, if you look at Washington, D.C., they have the Metropolitan Police Department, and they have the Capitol Police as well.
That is correct.
So all of this, maybe that's what you want to replicate. But we'll go on a quick break, and we'll continue with the conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back. Captain Bishop Johnson is my guest. He's a former U.S. Army officer. He joins us virtually. He joins us from Abuja City. My apologies, Captain Bish, as we call you. So I was talking about the Metropolitan Police Department and even the Capitol Hill. And if you know, you lived in America, so you're familiar with how it operates. It's primarily run by the local government with federal oversight in this sense. So maybe simulate for us, because if we want to replicate it side by side, that means it will be run by the area councils, not necessarily by the minister, for it to be that effective. Is that what you're saying in essence? Before we talk about some of the clear safeguards or guardrails that you've highlighted here.
Well, if you put our government side by side with that of the United States, you can see that in fact, I doubt there is any country similar to the United States than Nigeria. We're the two largest presidential system of governments in the whole world. Our federation is structured in line with that of the US. Yes, I agree with you that the DC doesn't have similar thing as the Federal Capital Territory, but they do have area councils as to compare to Washington, D.C. However, because security is such an important issue, I am advocating that in same manner as we are giving the states the opportunity to have their own police, the FCT residents should also be given that same opportunity to have their own police, because security and safety is a right. Rather than investing that power in the area councils, our Constitution has made provisions very clear that the president is the governor of the FCT. but he chooses to exercise that right or that responsibility through the minister of the FCT. That is why in the case of Nigeria, I am arguing that the FCT minister plays the same role or equivalent role as the governors of the various states. In Washington, D.C., the Metropolitan Police, which I also stated in the memorandum that I submitted to the Presidential Policing Bill Committee, and I hope that they do invite me to explain further, I stated it, that if you look at Washington, D.C., which is essentially the same thing as the FCT, they have their Metropolitan Police, existing alongside the FBI, alongside as every other federal security agencies in the DC. So I don't see where our constitution will be offended if there is a local police for the FCT constituted by recruiting the residents of the FCT who understand the local terrain, who understand the community networks, the social networks, and all of the security dynamics that are unique to the FCT. As against saying that, look, we'll go to Bauchi, or we'll go to Imo, or go to Anambra, we'll recruit people and we'll bring them to the FCT, people that have little or no knowledge about these security dynamics that are so unique and peculiar to the FCT. And so that is the point of argument here, because security is a local matter. It's only the local people who will be able to, who understand their own local dynamics, will be able to secure themselves. And it helps when you talk about intelligence. You want to do intelligence-driven policing. Those local people will be more amenable to divulging information to the people that they know who are from their various communities and their various social networks, as against somebody that you recruited from Sokoto or Anambra or Ekiti or Osun and deploy them to the FCT.
All right, Captain, before we wrap up, let's talk about the what everybody is always afraid of. The broad face value is always very welcome. No one, in fact, we should move from state to local government and even community police. Some people have advocated for further decentralization, but there's one problem: the issues of abuse. So I want to pick 4 for you to speak to them in quick succession, and how you intend that this can, because it's not unique to the FCT. So whatever solution you're proffering here can be expanded. Political victimization, and I'm happy that's number 1. In fact, you wrote it in ordinality. Any other one is fine, but political victimization, selective enforcement, abuse of police powers, unlawful interference with investigation, and let's ask suppression of lawful dissent, guardrails.
Well, I have not seen the bill myself, but based on what I have heard and what I have seen that is available in the public domain, some of the issues that you have just so far eloquently stated have been very much broadly and probably comprehensively addressed. My position on all of the issues that you stated is that, look, Rome was not built in a day. We won't find out unless we go to the field and implement these things. And that is why I have to give credit to the government, the executives at the National Assembly. They are taking this thing into two separate processes. When I listened to the Senate President one day, where he said they are taking it in 2 separate processes. One was to amend the Constitution so that police is no longer exclusive issue that is only left for the central government, so that states can also as well be able to have their own police. And then they leave it there, because we know the Constitution, how cumbersome it is to go in and amend the Constitution. But now they're coming into the Act, which is what the National Assembly can always go in from time to time. Anywhere gaps exist, they will go back and close that gap. Anywhere gaps come up, they go back and close those gaps. But we can't identify those gaps if we don't execute. We have to move from paper to the field and begin to apply the bill and implement them. And when we are doing that, those gaps will surface, and it is the responsibility of the National Assembly to go back and close those gaps wherever they exist.
Dr. Bates, I wish I had more time to explore the issues with you. But talk to us about when you think should be the best time to actually start implementing in real time state police. should we wait till after the election? Because there are fears that if this is implemented, a lot of gray areas that we need to touch, and of course, anybody who feels that governors won't abuse it is a bit of naivety, with greatest respect, because that's why these guardrails are put in place for those abuses not to happen. Should we wait till after the election when the dust is properly settled, then we can now start implementing this state police?
Geoffrey, you see, I've listened to that argument, and it's a very lame argument in my view. You see, the first and probably only primary responsibility of government is protection of lives and property. The priority of life protection far exceeds that of election, to be quite honest with you. Now, if we say, let's leave it until after the election, how many more Nigerians are going to die as a result of insecurity between now and the day of election? So you see, we have to prioritize protection of lives. Very, very important. We are losing too many people in this country needlessly, unnecessarily, because we don't have enough boots on the ground. We don't have the type of security architecture that we need to protect us. So I would say, look, I am one of those who disagree with that notion that we should wait until after election before we protect the lives of our fellow citizens. You know, who knows who is going to be next? It was Mr. A yesterday. So who knows who's going to be next? I'll say, if they are ready now, let us start work now. Let's protect lives and property.
Captain Bush, thank you so much on this one. You know, you are a military man, so you speak in principle. I cover both everything, including politicians, and we know how they process. But great points you raised. Captain Bishop Johnson is a retired U.S. Army captain. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Geoffrey. Let me tell you, see, government building infrastructure is secondary. That is a secondary responsibility. The primary responsibility of government is protection of lives and property. You know that thing is Jara.
All right, great point as well. That addition is necessary. Thank you. We appreciate you. And that's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. You've been served on LunchTime Politics. Bye-bye.